will Christina and Andre be here? Huh? I don't see them. They'll probably come now.
In my bag, they're not that full back there. I just brought a bag of water.
Good evening and welcome to the Fort Smith City Board of Directors special study session where we will be discussing the mid-year budget review and strategic planning session this evening. Keep in mind these meetings are being televised live for our residents who cannot be with us in person. This time we will go directly to the first item on the agenda. That's a review of the mid-year financial report. And you're recognized.
How's that?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So for the mid-year budget review, Finance Department put out the interim financial report to the board, which shows the results of the 4 operating funds through June 30, 2025. Includes comparative information from the 6 months ended June 30, 2024, as well as the original and currently amended budget for those 4 funds, as well as some detail. I thought just to start off this review process, I would kind of go over the 4 funds and just give you a couple things that I've noted to help kind of understand a little bit more behind the numbers there, and then let you board members ask questions once I do that. But
you want questions as we're going through it, or wait till you're done?
It really is up to you all. I mean, good either way, but you know, I can just go through the highlights and then we can do that. But just as an overall, my kind of outlook on the results, considering what we've been doing here as far as trying to retool the budget, trying to make cuts, making large investments in the city, particularly out of the general fund, dealing with rate increases, water and sewer, all those things, all these challenges and opportunities that we've been dealing with. I think just overall the numbers look fairly positive to me in light of all those things that we've been working on. I think the budget numbers reflect the cuts that the board committed to in the past, and I believe it shows that the department heads and the departments are being conservative and going along with trying to be conservative in spending. I think that's what it shows for the most part through all 4 of the funds. And so, so in general, I kind of have the numbers turned out about what I expected, not worse, maybe even a little better than what I expected to see when we got the June 30 numbers together. But I'm going to just comments, and Josh, if you want to go to that budget for the general fund, I'll just start there. So, I typically always start from the bottom and work my way up when I look at these financial statements. But, bottom line is, at this point in time, we've got a 32% contingency percentage at June 30, 2024. With the budget cuts in place, we've projected a 20% percentage through the end of 25, which is probably better than some of the numbers that we were looking at earlier in the year. So the cuts are, that is the board's goals to have at least a 20% fund balance there before any cuts are made. So, we're at 31% now. You can see the budget, the available budget remaining is about 60%, 56%. So mid-year, you would, if everything went perfectly, straight, no ups and downs, no seasonal type of things, I mean, you would expect to have 50% of your budget remaining at this point in time. So 56% shows that we haven't spent half the budget at this point. So if you look at, it's hard to look at mid-year and look at that annual budget, but to kind of tell how we're doing, we always look at the year before. So we've got June 30, 2024 numbers there, the prior year, which represents the 6 months compared to the actual date. We're looking at a deficit of $10.5 million of expenditures over revenues at this point in time for the 6 months ended June 30, 25. We were at $6.1 million deficit expenditures over revenues prior year. One of the main things I think to point out, and this has kind of been, the budget that we have for 25 has a lot of non-reoccurring investments that the city made. And so in the actual numbers, I've identified about $7 million in these $34 million of general fund expenditures that are non-reoccurring, capital outlay type investments that were made, so that $34 million is not necessarily the amount of money we would necessarily have to spend just to operate these 6 months. There's, obviously the purchase of the building is in there. So we bought land in the first half of 24 for about $2.3 million. I think it was the Crane Kia property that we bought. So, I kind of factor that in. So our capital outlay is about $2.1 million higher than that period last year, because we spent $4 million on the building. We did some other things as well that add up, but we also, if you looked at the $28 million that we have in the expenditures in the general fund in 24, that includes $2.3 million of that building purchase. So just for comparative purposes. We also have about $2 million worth of roof repairs that we made in this 6 months. That's something that we typically won't do. That was kind of an extraordinary expenditure. And then also $600,000 towards the airport. The extension, the barrier system, is also part of this $34 million in those expenditures. So you can see those. That comes up to about, like I said, $7 million of kind of not our normal operating things. These are more non-reoccurring activities that we've done. But if you're comparing it to 24, we put $2.3 million in the building, and I think also about $850,000 in the park, the projects. I think Creekmore Park was the bathhouse project. We spent about $850,000 that time frame. So the net in there is about $4 million difference. Non-recurring, more non-recurring expenditures in 25 than 24. So just to give a little context there, just overall. As far as revenues, we've been watching. It looks like our revenues are a little higher than in total than the same period last year. I think that's a little bit. There's some timing differences there, I believe, in the franchise fees that we've collected. I've kind of looked in on that. So you can see, like, taxes and assessments, we're showing $18.6 million for 25, $16.5 million for 24. But I think there's some timing there if you're comparing those things. Our sales tax, the county sales tax is the largest piece of that. And through June 30, we're down 1% compared to June 30, 2024. And so, and I don't know, with the sales tax report for the collections that we got this month, which weren't reflected in this, shows a 1% increase over prior year collections. And so, I think from what I've seen as far as our sales tax revenues right now, things are stable right now. And I hope that continues that way. I know there was a little bit of a kind of drop during the first, maybe it was March or April. We saw a little bit of, we kind of fell behind last year's. But, I've been diving into some of the, I've got some numbers by business code and comparing those things. I think there's some positive things in there, particularly for this last month, and I hope those things continue.
Yeah, Andy, I got a couple questions for you. I was a little surprised to see our amended budget be higher than our adopted budget, especially with the cuts that we. I'm talking on the on the expense side, expenditure side. I guess I was expecting to see it, a little bit less than that. How much did we cut from the general fund? We cut total 4.2.
Yeah. Let's see. I think it was about 1.6 million.
Okay, 1.6. Okay.
But I just, as far, the adopted budget is the original one that we passed in December.
Right.
And that doesn't that doesn't include like the $10 million that we carried over.
Yeah.
I mean, we've kind of talked through that a few different times, if not here in the audit committee meetings, but there's, and then, we did appropriated more money for the building and,
Okay.
so that, yeah.
So a couple of things as it relates to the actual to date expenditure numbers, 34.2. You talked about 7 million. We're projecting as of right now, we're 10.5 million under revenues. What are the remaining big ticket items that, or are there any remaining big ticket items that we could somehow shave off the 10.5 million or shave the difference between the 19.5 million in our amended budget versus our 10.5 million actual to date? I mean, it's basically we at this point, middle of the year, $10.5 million over in spending versus revenue.
Right.
That'll rise through the remainder of the year. I'm guessing that rise is not going to be another 10.5 million. So I'm trying to look at how I can project out that revenue, that deficiency. For the end of the year.
I mean, that's actually a good question. And, I don't know if there's anything that we realistically can shave, but, if you go back to, we're talking about, what are these things? Well, we bought the building. Well, that's done and gone. That's out of the budget.
Right.
We flushed that through when we bought it in February.
It's reflected here in this 10.5 million.
But if you look at we still have about $1 million available to fund the airport project. Okay. And from everything that I've been seeing, I think we're going to be under that by maybe $500,000.
Okay.
Remind me what airport project that is.
That barrier system, the runway extension, is for the FMS.
It's the arresting cable for the.
Yeah, the
We
arrest.
already funded that.
I thought that was
We have funded it, but the project is not fully completed yet.
You're looking at when we issue it versus when it gets PO'd. Andy's showing you when it's PO'd.
So it's not complete.
Right.
So we still have money that we have to outlay for this.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I was kind of along the same lines you were.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't ever get any information on what's going on at the airport, and we keep it's money out the door to the airport. We have no idea what's going on over there. I mean, does anybody else on the board feel that way? I maybe everyone else has been looped in but me, I don't know, but I have no idea what's going on over there.
The construction of it has mostly been completed. It's waiting for its certification for the completion, and then when those expenses are done, then the airport invoices us for the amount that they have to pay the contractors.
I would just ask administration, Jeff, to, be mindful. Obviously, if we're projecting, the budget is $20.4 million as a contingency reserve. I'd like to get that up as much as possible over that. So if there's anything that we can do between now and the end of the year to reduce or to increase that contingency reserve and reduce expenditures out of the general fund, that's what I would be hopeful for, and or that's what I would ask. Now, the last question I have related to this is just kind of an overall. I just got a property tax letter where the value of my home is increasing, and I think I've talked to a number of different people that have gotten that same letter. If property taxes increase, will that be reflected in 25 or 26 in terms of revenue for the city? Do we know?
Your valuation increased. You just got that letter just now?
Like Friday. It'll be 26? Okay, yeah, a lot of people I'm talking to.
So those are going to be.
I know that's accounting, but what that means is it's going to be it'll be just additional general fund revenue. Is that a 20? Will that be 25, or will we realize it?
26.
Okay, thank you.
Right, you'll get the notice in the spring before March of what your taxes will do next October.
Okay, all right, thank you. Right, well, the city won't reflect it until 26.
And it'll probably be hard to tell.
Well, it just we'll see it in the overall numbers. We should expect that property tax revenue will increase some percentage.
Okay, and just back to your question, as far as any other, the one-time things that are out there that we haven't spent yet, Parrot Island, water park, the water slides,
What do we have left?
the construction.
What is that?
Let's see. Well, we've got 1.9 million remaining, so that means we spent about 2.2 so far.
On what?
The purchase and delivery of the slides.
Purchase and delivery. And that was how much?
2.2,
So
I think.
is that's not reflected up here, or it is?
It is.
It is, okay.
Well, hold on. I think you were saying it is, we've yet to pay the 1.9.
That's right.
So that's not reflected in the actual
That's
to
right.
date. Like we should expect to see that actual to date.
It's in the
increased by
budget, but it
1.9.
didn't show up in our June 30 actuals
Right,
yet. That's right. On the positive side, as far as the timing of revenues, the Department of Transportation, and as far as our transit program, we've not been able to actually draw down any funds in the last few months. The system and the grant application process, which we're confident that we're going to do that, but we have about $1.5 million that we will be able to draw down in reimbursements towards the transit program that aren't reflected in here, and those are for charges, transit charges, in these numbers, and some from 24 as well. So there's additional $1.5 million in revenues that theoretically we could count, but we just haven't been able to do that yet. We're hoping to do that in the next couple months.
Hey, Andy, when we look at the breakdown by the NEICS code, I'd requested that and you sent it to us.
Yes.
Are there any sectors that jump out at you? It looks like manufacturing had some good growth, utilities was 22%. Anything that feels hopeful to you that you see in there?
Yeah, actually, I pulled down, I think what I sent to you was last month.
It was for June, yeah.
Okay, so I've got July's now from what we just collected, and I've been kind of looking at it, and I even went back and comparing July of 24, 23, 22. Just looking, just for some context. So obviously, retail trade is by far our biggest business. That's the biggest. out of the 5.3 million, it's worth about $2.9 million. So that is by far the largest sector. So I look at that and I see, okay, so we're a little bit down from 23. 23 was 2,940,000 for retail trade. We were at 2,858,000. I think 23 was an exceptional year. 22 for July it was 2,783,000. So I'm seeing things. If I even drill down to some of that, see if I can get that to go down. Other general merchandise is the largest retail sector that we get. So that was at 974,000 in 22. We're at 1,019,000 or 1,049,000 in 25, and that's the most that we've ever had. Even in that July 23, it was 998. So just overall. And I kind of seeing that thing through our people are spending money. We're still people. Our economy, local economy, is still good. It looks like they need to buy more liquor. We're not buying enough right now, but that's not a big piece of this. But.
Well, the thing I thought was interesting was it looks like retail's doing fine. It looks like wholesale's had a little dip. I would think maybe those things might
there is some
correlate,
flip in there.
Yeah.
Some of the other decline I'm seeing in building materials is a dip. 23 was kind of an exceptional year for that. That's where it got the most. But other than building materials, which we've issued some pretty significant building permits recently. I don't think our building developments are slowing down necessarily.
They're picking up. They're picking up a little bit, but not to the 2023 levels.
So I think that's pretty positive. The second one is accommodations and food and services is the main category. So it's 693,000 in 25. It was 600,000 in July 22. But July 25 is higher than any other July in here, and so, there's and those are the biggest factors. So I think I see our sales, at least at this point, I would say it's stable. We'd like to see some growth. We're not hitting I think we had a 2% growth projection in the numbers here. We're not necessarily hitting those, but we're not trailing that far behind at this point for 24, and I'm not so sure that we can't beat 24 by the end of the year. That's what I'm hoping for. So I feel pretty good today about sales taxes. Let's see. I think that's probably the general fund. Real quickly, if you want to go to the street maintenance fund, I see a lot of consistency, comparability here. Everything looks good. We're at a 70% contingency reserve percentage at mid-year. We've projected that 69% in the amended budget. And so, we do have some spending in the works there, but some of that is cap. We've got some capital purchases in there. I think about $700,000 in capital purchase were spent in June of 24. So that $904,000 deficit is being impacted by about $700,000. So, I'm seeing a lot of just on the CERT, just kind of across the board equipment maintenance and things like that are, I think there's price increases related to that across the board for all the funds. So, we are seeing, some effects of inflation there, but fairly stable in the street maintenance fund.
Andy,
Yes, sir.
if you're looking at the actuals to date on any of these four funds for the fund balance, whether it's general fund, street maintenance fund, water and sewer, or solid waste, and you look at the actual to date, where we are sitting today, or as of a few weeks ago anyway, and then the amended budget, which projects forward, the street maintenance fund is the only one that really doesn't have any sort of appreciable reduction projected in that fund balance. Is that an indication that there's not projects that we anticipate utilizing funding of that nature between now and the end of the year?
I mean, I don't.
That's a very, it strikes me as a very, very large number.
Yes.
To sit on and to stay static with.
Yes. I mean, a lot of the maintenance, those are, it's a lot of repair type projects are usually not kind of just one big package thing. I don't know if Matt's here. He could probably speak to this better than I can. But I know we have, we also have, we make contributions to his maintenance equipment. That is, that's part of this, the transfer out. We don't actually buy the equipment out of this fund per se. We have a reserve that's not part of this fund balance for him, for Matt in the streets department. But yeah, I think normally the street maintenance fund is kind of just a normal operations. So it doesn't have like a lot of big construction projects like streets.
I think in the previous years, we bought snow removal equipment, we bought sidewalk equipment. We'll have to get with Matt when it comes to a CIP in October. And what do we want to look at? Because that's the gasoline tax. That's all that's coming from. That's not the That's not the street tax. That's the gasoline tax. And most cities use that for their street repair. But we do potholes, but sidewalks and things like that with ours.
Yeah, that's just the one that jumped out to me when you look at, like with the general fund, 32% fund balance today, projected down to 20, water and sewer 34 today, projected down to 24, solid waste 46 today, projected down to 35, street maintenance 70 down to 69. Good point, Director Settle. That's probably a additional conversation to have at CIP time with Mr. Meeker.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy.
Sure.
Even additionally, isn't that also something that's prudent to us to consider anyways, just because of watching the sales tax adjustment from the 1 cent sales tax coming down? I mean, entering that with cautious to understand the market and what it's going to be doing.
There are restrictions that we can use the sales tax, the gasoline tax, excuse me. So we just have to get what the state statute says, but I believe we can use it on, most cities use it on road construction, lights, signs, stuff like that. So we can just have that discussion, and we allocate some funding to a street or something.
If I remember, a couple of years ago, it was sitting at 100%, and that's when we went and did
bought a lot.
Yeah, we bought some
we did.
things
Yeah.
to bring that down, but it just continues to kind of creep up and stay high. So I'm with you.
I think there's
we
opportunities
look
we
at
can fund streets or some other stuff. I think we bought the paint equipment, the painting trucks through that, and now we're painting our own self, so we're saving some money there. So it's done a lot of good things.
All right. I'm ready to move to the water and sewer fund next. If you don't have any questions. So, I think to me, the water and sewer fund for June 30, this looks like a bright spot to me. If you look at at the bottom there, our estimated debt service coverage for 24, I had to estimate at 71%. We obviously made debt service coverage by the end of the year. But comparatively, the same calculation gives me 118% for June 30, 2025. So that is definitely an improvement at this point in time over last year.
Well, let me ask a question on that, because that's where it sits today, 118%. But we're going to be spending money, so this is where I had some pretty some concerns here. If we're projecting it at 80%, sitting at 118 right now, what should I take from this? Obviously, we want to hit at least 110, but are we anticipating that's going to drop down significantly?
that estimate is if I annualize the net revenues that we have for 6 months. If I double that, if I say that I can make $3.3 million again in the next 6 months, if I can net that.
That's what you mean by this 118%.
Yes.
So you're
it's not a perfect calculation,
Okay.
but like I'm saying, compare it to what we had in the 6 months of 24.
Right.
It's the same methodology. There's a big improvement.
So you're basically saying if everything goes according to the same way it went the first 6 months,
yes,
we're going to hit a debt service ratio of 118%.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I need.
Yes. And, bear in mind, we do have 6 months of we raised water rates last fall. And so that is factored in here. We're seeing a 14% increase in revenues from last June 24 at this point in time. I'm seeing, I think volume is down, but the rates, the water revenues are up. I think there might be a decline in the sewer charges because volume is down. And as I had to discuss this with Lance, I mean, June 30 may not be the best point in time to really see what the whole year is going to look like. These next dry months can play a big factor. This is not, the water and sewer can be fairly seasonal depending upon wet and dry seasons and temperature and things. So it's not necessarily going to be an even.
We're probably just now hitting the high peak water
Right.
usage. Yeah.
Even with the wet season, you still see what you got.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. That gives me hope that maybe it will end up higher than 118%. That's what I want to get.
That's why I
wanna
look
get
at
a big cushion.
the 6 months for June 30, 20. We're doing better than that's a good indicator. We did better than we did last year at this point. So, of course, I think by the time we start billing things in October, then we'll really know how good we're doing. And also, the sewer rate increases will be, they become effective July 1st. So those aren't factored in here.
So when you give us this in September, will you also estimate that debt service coverage ratio as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
So revenues are good, positive there. Expenditures are down. So we've been maintaining the level of expense. I think the budget cuts are helping. Some other things, but it's good. The contingency reserve is up at 33.5% at this point in the year. If we can keep things moving in the positive direction, that's going to be good for the water and sewer fund. So the last fund just want to talk to, and then we can discuss whatever issues you want to discuss. Solid waste fund. So we're at 45.7% compared to 43.1 at this point in time in June 24. So we have some improvement from that perspective as far as working capital. We do have a $304,000 expenditure over our revenues at this point. We do see some increases in our operating expenditures at this point compared to last year. Our revenues are looks like our service charges are slightly above what it was last year at this point. I think the increases are largely related to the landfill operations. There's been some decrease in roll-off charges, but it's relatively stable there. As far as the actual expenses and increases that we're seeing, most of those I would attribute to we're having an increase in our maintaining of equipment. As far as the dollar and cents and the accounts that I'm seeing where the increases are, a lot of it's maintenance there. We also did purchase some carts, some containers during the year, which I don't think we did at this point in time last year. So those are really kind of the drivers, you know, and I know we've got a cost of service study in play for the solid waste fund at some point to help look at this, but overall I think, you know, I think the results are good. So that's all the kind of highlights I wanted to just start out with, and we can talk about whatever questions you guys have.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Any questions from the board?
Mayor, I have a question.
Director George Casavis.
On the water and sewer fund, Andy, the fees for the late fees, reconnect fees, shut-off notices, where is that money? How's that accounted for?
It's accounted for in the water and sewer fund. It goes in there.
But it's not itemized, is it? It's just lumped in?
It would be part of, let's see, I believe that should be part of the service charges. Yeah.
So, I mean, are we getting a true picture if you were to factor in those things? Is what I'm getting at.
I mean, they're included in here.
Yeah.
I mean, I can break it out.
But I'm saying, if you say, but the revenue's up, water revenue's up, does that include?
Mainly the water and sewer revenue is up.
So if you lump that in with that, then you're not really getting a true picture of the actual revenue, are you?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, the majority of the revenue is the water volume and sewer volume charges.
Right.
You know, the connect fees are just a small. They don't have such a large impact on at least trends. You know, I mean, but I'm trying to look and see if I can pull up any detail here. So you had a question. So we're talking about reconnect fees.
Yeah, you have late fees, reconnect fees, shut off notice fees. I mean, just curious. I mean,
Let me see what I can.
if we're actually getting an actual picture of the revenue.
So reconnection fees are up 150,000.
Up
Yes,
from last year,
from this 6 months period last year.
$150,000.
Yes,
But what was the actual number before?
it was only 43,000 in 24. It was 196 in 2025.
Well,
What's the uptick here?
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. What's the uptick?
I don't know if I could answer that. I don't know if Lance could answer that. That off the top of my head, I don't know.
If you're reconnecting, or is that describing someone that couldn't pay a water bill, then had to pay a fee to get their water back on?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
typically.
$196,000 in revenue? Mm-hmm. Seems really, really high. Yeah.
Andy, I don't know if is it a separate reconnect fee or a connect fee?
It's a reconnect.
Okay, it is reconnect. Because we also are up on connection fees because of new accounts. People moving in.
Yeah, what's the difference in what's the connect fee?
It's the same.
Num-
It's the same.
No, I mean I'm saying what the total dollar amount for connect fees, just for comparison purposes.
Let's see.
Lance, would you dive into that a little bit better? I wonder if that's like.
Hey, Lance,
people-
hang on a second.
Apartment connections, people moving in and out of rental homes. I just want to know that definition better.
That may be all connections. Because I mean, there's some sewer connection fees, but they're only about $36,000.
That's tap fees.
Yeah, so those are different things. I
Yeah.
bet the reconnect is probably both.
Yeah, so,
Yep.
so if I may use your mic.
Sure.
So when I budget revenue every year, I do not, I zero out late fees and new account fees, connection fees. Because my hope is that nobody pays their bill late. And I don't want to game the system by saying, okay, we're going to have this amount. Connection fees that he was looking at, that's tap fees. So that's putting in a new meter new tap, new service line. That's the connect fees. The reconnect fee or whatever it is, that includes those that have been disconnected for non-payment,
Right.
and then those that are new accounts. So you have someone move in from Tulsa, they buy a house, they have to set up a new account, there's a connection fee, and that's all lumped into one.
How much is a reconnection fee typically?
It's, I would have to go back and look and see, because I think we changed it. I want to say it's either $50 or $75. It's the same as the connection fee.
So just for a point of clarity then, are you just saying that we had 40,000 number that was talked about and then 196,000? Are you saying that's included, that's new growth?
It can be new growth as well as people that did not, new accounts plus those that had their water turned off and
Or
had to have
rental
it turned back on.
turnovers
Yes.
for a new client?
Yes.
Lance, how many people are actually how many shut-off notices do we have? I mean, how many people right now have been shut off?
I would have to
It's
get
been
that.
as high as 800, I know.
Yeah, I would have to look into that. I don't have that number in front of me.
When was that 800 number?
Well, a couple of years ago.
Was
I
that
believe
for a month? 800 for a month or a year?
That was at one time it was a month, but that was also when, if you remember right, when we stopped late fees and cutoffs for COVID and all of that.
Yeah.
And then we tried to establish payment plans.
Yes.
That's when that blossomed. And that's gone way down since then.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to have that many at this point.
Lance, while you're here, and since we've talked about equipment and, budgetary looks and stuff, has the water department been able to secure the equipment that we've talked about and approved for purchase?
The backhoes and the trailers are in. We're still waiting on the dump trucks and service trucks. And the suppliers have said it can be anywhere from today to the end of September.
Okay, well, hopefully today. Thank you.
I hope.
Thank you, Lance.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Mayor, I had a question as well.
Director Kemp.
Thank you, Mayor. Does administration have an update on, and did not review the pending list, so I'm asking this question kind of without reviewing the pending list, but the property sale list that we were talking about, I know that we sent that back and said, hey, let's, really look at narrowing this list down. I think that is another way for us to recapture revenue, of looking at that list and what's viable to be listed on the market. Do we have an idea of where that is as an actionable item?
That is scheduled for the August 12th study session, a revisit of that topic.
Okay. And then, so for instance, if we've expensed $2 million for some property over by the airport and we were to sell that, does that dollar come back to the general fund?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, we need to sell that, bro.
Yeah, I think it's important that we sell that property. That, to me, is the
That's
easiest
to me,
one to
yeah.
sell.
Well, that's, and I'm sure we're going to identify others as well. And so I'm just saying, it's not going to bankroll the next 2026 budget, but it's a sizable amount. And recapturing
help.
those dollars helps
But we
percentages.
still have work to do. We know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the thing we don't need to do is let that stay out in limbo land.
Andy, one more question. The convention center, how much are we subsidizing those? It's been high as $750,000. Is it still probably about the same?
It's higher than that. We had budgeted about $1,250,000 for in their 25 budget.
Mm-hmm.
And so
And that's general fund money, right?
that's right.
It's supposed to be 770.
Yeah, 770. That's what it's been
770 is supposed to be what it is. It's just, it continues to get higher and higher.
higher.
In the last few years, we always said 777, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then
COVID.
and then the management company took over, and they're making improvements and things, but COVID happened and that whole industry took a hit, and we had to help fund that.
Yep.
We've never gotten them back down to the 777.
Right.
They've made
It
them.
seems like they're booking shows there all the time.
They're making improvements there, but we actually budgeted $1 million. I think if you remember during the budget time, they had a projected $900,000 deficit. So
And
that's
they
what we
said-
were supposed to fund.
They said they were trying to get it back down to the 700.
Right. So,
Yeah, that's right, under.
so I think there was improvement made in the 24 year from that. I don't think we had to, because we've had to put as much as a 1.5 into the convention center.
That seems really high.
Yes.
Seems like
It's
I don't
almost
remember.
double.
I don't.
That was in the, that was the
it was
COVID
also-
years.
COVID years. Okay.
It was also, if you remember, I mean, we had, as we transferred to OVG, we also maintained a certain number of city employees over there, and that we attributed to some of these dollars.
Yeah.
So we have moved those back to the general fund and redeployed them for maintenance, and so those expenses are not going to, they're these numbers in the budget because we hadn't done that before that. And so during 2025, we have moved those folks over into 45, a different program that we are using.
We transferred them into the facilities, and we adjusted the transfer
Right, so part
from
of the
convention
numbers that we
center
were
to
talking about,
accommodate that.
part of the numbers we're talking about that is more than the 777, what we had to pay for those city employees that we maintained.
Correct.
We'll go to Director Neil Martin and then Director Kemp.
So as I look at, say, the general fund, or really all of these, there's that line item for interest. I think that relates to the Treasury report on page 26. What is the determinant for where those interest dollars should go? I mean, the way I look at it, I think we're earning about 6%. Basically, the pooled cash investments at 3.83%. I think that generates about $6 million. How do we determine those funds and how they're
The
allocated?
system allocates it. We run it every month. It tracks the pool is made up of, the general fund has a position in the pool, water and sewer.
Okay.
And so the system calculates daily average balances. That's one of the cool things that Munis does.
Okay. So that's not something we're just saying, hey, we're going to put some here.
No.
It's based on
It is a
formula.
It is a systematic methodology that we do.
Okay.
We do that. Everyone is getting their fair piece of the interest.
And that 160 million in savings, what does that essentially make up?
That's part of the pool as well.
Yeah, it is. But what
It's
is
just savings account,
right?
and
Is that basically the cash we have on hand?
yes.
Okay.
I mean, we've, we need to keep watching the rate environment.
Right.
We could deploy that savings. We were in the best of both worlds last year. We were making as high an interest rate as we could based upon whatever the best treasury rate was, and all our cash was still liquid and collateralized and protected in the banks.
We made a change a few years ago in terms of how we invest these dollars to get a higher rate. Is that right? If I remember.
Well, I was going to, we could, like I said, we could take this savings account and start buying mature, treasuries
Right.
or other, legal investments that we
Right,
could
right.
invest in. And we could ladder these things and have them mature at different times and
Right.
have a kind of revolving deal. But I don't know that we were going to get much more than
Okay.
what we're doing now then, but I've continued to watch that, and considering we'll do that in the future once the yield curve's been inverted for such a long time. The short-term stuff was, we're earning as much on short-term maturities as you could on a 5 or whatever, 10-year. So
Okay, thank you.
we're watching that.
Okay, thank you.
Director Kemp and then Director Christina Savage.
Yes. Andy, could you speak to, did we have more carryovers this year than we've had in other years? Or has this kind of been on par with what we've historically done over the years as far as carryovers from unfinished projects?
I would say yes. mainly because of the airport project was a carryover, and the roof repairs. Those two in themselves were fairly large. Typically, if we do have something that large, it's like Transit's going to buy a big bus or something. We're going to get reimbursed for those type of things. But yeah, this was a high, especially for the general fund this year.
Well, sometimes it can also, from someone on the outside looking at us, not understanding all the details of these or the nuance of these projects, it seems as if we forget about it and then we realize, oh my gosh, we're still paying for this, or it creates this idea that are we doing the work that we said we were going to do, or the scope of that. I definitely would love for us to learn how to communicate that workflow better. When we think about a project coming, here's the project, and
right,
sort of people can see a runway, because it felt like a lot of carryovers.
Yes.
And I thought, wow, we had a great thing going, and all of a sudden now I'm over here seeing $10 million in carryovers.
The other thing to remember is the carryovers is just about timing, right? So we didn't spend it in 24, so our fund balance ended up better in 24 than what we were planning. We were planning to spend those things, but now we've moved it to 25. So we're going to spend more in 25, but typically, mathematically, we should end up in the same place by the end of 25 that we would otherwise if we had spent it in 24. So it's really just about timing.
Okay. Thank you for answering it.
So, Andy, I know at one of the meetings, it may have been an audit meeting, you talked about the possibility we could go below the 15% threshold. Is that still accurate? Or are you feeling more hopeful?
I think right now, that's hard to say. I don't know if we've got other things that are going to spring up on us, but I think during 25, I don't think we will. We've projected it to go. Let's look at it this way. Theoretically, what we've approved to spend now, we can't spend more than what we've approved, right? So we can't go past the $19 million deficit that we've already said. So we can't spend that as long as we don't do anything else. The other flip side of that, revenues don't come in. If the revenue, if we have a significant decline in our sales tax revenues, then that should do that. I don't really foresee that happening, and I think it had to be a fairly significant decline to drop down to 15% at this point. So,
Okay.
Long as we can manage.
I think it was an audit committee meeting. We discussed that because I remember thinking that's shocking.
The percentage that we calculated in was a little bit different than what this policy percentage is. It's not the exact same percentage, but yeah, that was low. We were saying it was like 12%, but that was a little bit different calculation.
I just don't want to get us into a situation where we're going into austerity measures.
Right. We'd like to maintain a 25% percentage on a go-forward basis. That makes it, and if we can do that, we've got 90 days expenses in the bank, and if we can get above that, it allows us to make capital investments. That's really where we need to get to.
So really, we've got to stop spending. The spending spree's over. Budgeted items only.
Maybe not spend budget.
We need efficiencies.
Yeah.
We still have implemented, of course, it won't likely be that impactful to the departments until towards the end of the year, but we still are watching and still making them pay attention to a 10% threshold. Spend up to 90% of your budget. We're watching and need approval really to get to that last 10%. And like I said, in the middle of the year, that's not really an issue, but when we get towards the later months, it might be. But in general, I think the departments are watching that themselves. They're mindful of that. And so I think they're planning their spending accordingly and trying to spend 90% of their budget.
Well, I know they're planning budgets for next year as well. So I would, hope and advise for the department heads as they're planning for the next year to be, conservative with spending.
Andy, what's the dollar amount to get to 25%? Just rough shot, real quick. I was sitting here thinking about that. We talk about getting that to to that, and I agree. What's the dollar amount to get us to that?
All right, so we need. So at 16 million, we're at 20%. We need to be at 20 million to be at 25. That's based upon an annual expend of 78 million. And that's what our amended budget shows. That's general fund.
Okay.
Now, if we don't, it actually could be less than that if we can budget less than 78 million. Remember, we talked about we have $7 million of one-time things in here. You know, our original budget was 60. So actually, you know, it's really just a matter of what we budget for.
But I think the key too is I don't want to get to where, in trying to hit some goal as well, that we have carryovers for 26, and so then you're just littering projects that got delayed. I mean, at some point, then you got to start looking at it. Are these things that we really need to be doing if they're not being executed in this timely manner?
That's right.
Because I mean, I don't want to keep carrying ourselves over dollars upon dollars upon
In
dollars.
the past, we never accounted for the carryovers. It was the carryovers would be 2023 would be allocated for 2023. You just take that out of the budget, and then you can move forward. And we're playing the carryover game, to your point. And I'd like the old way where you just said it was allocated in 24 and it's done. Allocated in 25 and you're done. So you don't have to worry about those carryovers, and that money would just sit there and doing that. And so by carrying it over, it causes a little confusion. I'd rather back the old way where you said, hey, it's allocated in 24 budget, and you set that aside and you're done, and then you spend it in 25, because you're always going to have some projects for carryover. There's always going to be something. You can't have a cutoff, and not because you're going to be buying buses or cars or police vehicles, stuff that take, fire trucks take 6 months to a year. So to me, I'd rather go back the old way of it's allocated in 24 and don't worry about the carryover. Because I think it causes some confusion that we're doing today.
Agree with that.
But here's a potential scenario that we need to work to avoid. So our projection right now, our amended budget says we're going to end up about $16 million. We're trying to hold back spending even beyond that. I hope we end up better off than that. But let's say if we're going to project that we're still going to be a $16 million fund balance at the end of 25. Now, if we come back for 26 and project our first budget, our operating numbers, like we did in 25, it was a deficit of $5.7 million. Well, your fund balance is now $10 million or lower. So that's the challenge that we're going to face when doing the 26 budget, is to avoid having a deficit of 5.7 like we started out with last time. And we're fighting price increases in health insurance and insurance rates. I'm seeing everywhere, we're still fighting rate increases coming at us, tariff surcharges, to me, it's like we definitely need some growth. I'd like to see bigger sales tax dollars. I'm happy that it's at least stable at this point, but like I said, I mean, we need to be conservative.
I even think we need to get projects to contract as quick as we can when we're doing it. If it's a project we purpose to doing so because of inflation, I feel like
it's not going to get any cheaper,
the
right?
water slide project, things of these nature. I mean, it's done, it's voted. It's not going to get cheaper, and the more and more you delay, the more inflation plays in. Getting somebody in contract and executing this contract on some of these projects, and otherwise it becomes another part of the whole stalled out train ride that we're on.
And to the point Director Katsavis made a second ago, that, I mean, Andy was talking about budgeting the deficit at 5.7. That is something that the department heads need to be mindful, or are being mindful of now as they start putting together the 26 budget, is that we are in a position where we need to look at how do we make our operating budgets smaller.
Are we on track to be able to review the budget earlier than we typically do?
We're on track to give the proposed budget, at least the request, to the board in the first part of October.
Okay.
And that's,
I mean, it's been, the past couple of years, it's been December.
well, no, I mean, we give the first look. We always give the first look towards the budget in October.
Usually mid-October is
Right.
about the 15th of October. We bring you the big book the first time you get the.
Yeah, but our meeting to discuss amongst each other the past couple of years has
been pretty late in November, right?
No, I mean, it's been December. It was, my daughter was in the Nutcracker. It was December. And I was.
I think there were some scheduling issues last year, if I remember right.
and
We
the
ended up
year
doing some
before.
at
I mean,
night.
We need to have these discussions because I'd like to allow for more than one if needed. I didn't like how we did 2 years ago where it was like a full week drawn out, but I'd like to be able to maybe have one in November and then maybe another one in December before we look at passing it in late December.
Yeah, we'd like to get the budget to you as early as we can in October. Like, I think this last time maybe it was in the middle of the month, but we'd like to give you at least 30 days to look at it before we make that. So if we can get it in the early part of October, then we can schedule a budget review the first part of November, and then have time for more as we go through the next 30 days or so. I agree with that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Andy?
Mayor.
What is
Dre.
Director Good? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no questions at all, Andy. Just in wrapping it up, board had some good discussion. Appreciate your information and your input. Just want to point out that, you use such descriptives as good and stable and positive in describing how you felt we were financially. So I think as a board and as staff, I think we're making all the right decisions and making the right moves. So thank you for your information.
Thank you.
That was a comment I was going to make or have you comment on, your overall outlook for our finances, and that is positive. Okay?
I agree, Mayor.
Okay.
Good comment, Dre.
Yeah. Any other comments? If not,
I do need to kind of give kudos to my staff because
good.
they produced this pretty quickly. Probably they put a lot of extra time and worked very well together to make sure this came out on time for you guys to be able to see this.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you, staff.
we appreciate them very much. Thank you. This time we'll go to the second item on the agenda, discuss City of Fort Smith strategic goals that were established in, last year?
December of 2023, and I included in your packet that resolution and the 6 strategic goals that were established in September of 23, but adopted by resolution in December of that year, and some information related to the current status of those and efforts to address them. And I'd like to open that for discussion for y'all this evening, just about those particular items. But then also, as we get into the budget season for the 26 budget, it bears in mind to set a new set of strategic goals for the staff to work towards, whether it's a reconstitution or a restatement of the existing ones, or if we need to add to those or subtract those sorts of things. That's the kind of discussion I'm interested in hearing from you all this evening. And to that point, if it, as we've done in the past, we've done a day-long strategic planning workshop with a facilitator to help go through the different ideas the different board members have and try to narrow those down and consolidate them into a half dozen or so specific strategic goals for the for the staff to work towards. That is something I'd like to entertain as well if the board wanted to do that type of activity this fall.
I'm in favor of the day-long session because I think it allows us to have some freedom and talk through things, throw everything up there, have some free discussions, and then we kind of get down to 6, 7, 8 goals at that point. I like that. It's worked in the past, and it really has helped us. Even if it's during the week or Saturday, I'm willing to make it count, whatever the team would work with.
I tend to agree with that. It gives us the opportunity to kind of think through some things and put things down on paper, focus our minds on certain things. So I'm for an all-day session.
Do we ever include strategic planning that may come out of a department? If they have specific goals and objectives they would like to achieve, is that ever included in our conversations?
I usually, as the elected member of the city, I want to make sure that what we're hearing from citizens is what's getting pushed forward in terms of strategic goals. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the departments maybe speaking into that a little bit, but ultimately, us being the representatives of the citizens, I think we're the ones that need to be making sure that we're putting the strategic goals that we're hearing from citizens.
I agree with that. We have another layer of the process to where the staff identifies their key service objectives and tries to identify those for the board and for the public. Ideally, those things will be centered around things that are in the board's adopted set of strategic goals or the comprehensive plan or some other thing that's been adopted by the board in terms of a policy or some sort of planning document. But I think where we then a bit later, I think maybe in late part of August, we have a study session review of the department's key service objectives, sort of a review of what they've done in the past, what they intend to do with the next budget year. And so I think at that point, then the board can see those and see how they match up with ideas for strategic goals going forward.
Okay, very good. Director Rigo.
Thank you. I as well would like to see a separate session, facilitated, and I appreciate the update we received tonight on some of the, in the packet on the progress that's been made or the work that's been done on the goals that we produced a couple years ago. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Do you have any thoughts in terms of that time frame? Would it be September or August, September, October? I mean, I think some of us are going to D.C. in October. I didn't know if we were planning on wanting it to go that late, but
I would want to get it scheduled as soon as we can.
Okay.
It'll depend on coordination of schedules, of course, and that sort of thing. But I think the sooner we do it, the better. Because I think even the one session this one references was September the 29th. That's fairly late in our budget season. I mean, the departments have submitted their budgets by that time, and they've gone through with administration to review them and sort of make that first sort of reductions, if you will. And so I think it is in our best interest to do it as soon as we can do it. And if it is in August, early part of September, that's as late as I'd want to go.
Is every Tuesday in August already a meeting? I can't recall the calendar off the top of my head.
Did this meeting in the past occur on a Tuesday night?
Not necessarily.
Normally occurred on a Friday.
On Friday.
So we would
Daytime or evening?
Yeah,
daytime. So
Like 9
most of
to
us, I think, would
4.
take off work if we could do it. We'd take off work and we would go somewhere like.
We did the Bountiful House.
Yeah.
We've done it here. Chaffee one year.
Yeah. Just kind of allows us to get outside of our normal space and kind of talk.
I'm for the idea, and I would love to see it done in August personally, so that we can have good information leading to budget, good information leading to DC, good information all around of a consensus.
And that may be good. Definitely getting before DC.
Agreed.
Could you, Jeff, send us some dates to consider
We'll do it, yes,
in
sir.
August?
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
once you think about some potential locations and facilitators, what might work for them, and then and see what could work for us.
Is a Friday, does that work? I mean, to me, that's the easiest, but I mean, I don't know if that works for everybody's schedule.
Fridays would be good for me, but I work around what I got to make it work.
Yeah, I'd have to request the time off too, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Fridays work for me, except
your-
the last Friday of the month is my daughter's birthday. So, but I still could be available that day as well.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
I do have a motion, Mayor, but I don't know if that you're
You're
speaking to this
recognized.
item or are you speaking to just anything in general?
You recognize?
I do need to make a motion for concurrence among the Board of Directors for August 7th, Thursday, August 7th, in the afternoon of August 7th, for a combined interview process with available Board of Directors and the Audit Committee for the City of Fort Smith, combining up. The consensus was that we wanted to, just as a follow-up on this, we wanted to involve them in this process. And I've spoken with the chairman, Ms. Deanna, and she's gotten a consensus among the audit committee for availability on Thursday, August 7th. And then DPI staffing is confirmed with Amanda Strange and James Carter, and they are both available on August 7th as well. So we are looking at 2 interviews on the same afternoon, first one starting at 2:30.
That should work. Any other comments on that?
I will need concurrence on that. I'll need 4 directors.
We do? Because, what do you,
Well, because it's going to have to be on public notice. 1, it is an interview. 2, since there'll be more than one director there, FOIA meeting laws are going to require us to put a notice. So we are seeking concurrence of 4. Is that correct, Mr. Sherry?
executive session, okay, that's
There
okay.
you go. Yeah, it is a special meeting convening into executive session.
So we've got one.
Would it be an executive session if members of the audit committee are there because they're just private citizens?
Okay. We've got-
I'm
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Thank you. We're still confirming, but the calendar, but it is to be scheduled at the Blue Lion. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.